Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home.
Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive. And I have an amazing guest today. And before I bring her on to just wow you, I want to talk to you about a few places you can join us and get support. So first of all, this is the Heal Your Hunger Show. We help people with emotional eating. I was somebody who was 50 pounds overweight and struggled miserably with my weight. So if that's you, welcome. You are so in the right place, especially if you're so tired of talking about diets and exercise plans and keto this and, ingredients that. Trust me, I know you know that stuff. So what we go through here is what the emotions are behind that. How do we address life issues? You don't have an eating problem, you have a living problem. And the living problem is what we like to address here, what I like to address here at the Heal Your Hunger Show. So you can join us where we're recording this live, which is the Secret Sauce group. It's this, go to Facebook and type in the Secret Sauce to End Emotional Eating, and you'll be there for support and all new interviews that I do from there. Also, if you're not sure if you're an emotional eater and you want to really get your definitive score, you can do that by taking the emotional eating quiz. And you go to healyourhunger.com and you take the quiz. You'll find out if you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between, because I think we're all somewhere in there, but you get a very definite score and also action steps on what to do about it. So definitely be sure to take that quiz. And just welcome. I'm just really, really happy and grateful that you're here. I have an amazing guest I wanted to share with you. I didn't want to have her all to myself because she's beautiful, she's wonderful, and she's a very dear friend. So my amazing and gorgeous friend, Siddiqi Ray, is an internationally known photographer, and she is so well known, and she's worked for so many Forbes 100 corporations and magazines, Time Magazine. She even got to photograph His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Kennedy family, Nelson Mandela, and the Navy SEALs in an underwater series. How cool is that? So I'm really happy to have her here because what we're really talking about today is how to show up in life with confidence. I have clients who constantly tell me because of their body size, they don't feel confident, and they're busting out of that, which is really important as they lose weight, as they go through my program. They're getting more confident. But for anybody who struggles with weight, it's an issue. And so there's no better person to talk about this than my friend Siddiqi. Hi, Siddiqi. So good to have you here. Yeah.
So great to be here. Thank you for inviting me into this really juicy, relevant conversation. Really appreciate being invited into it.
Absolutely. And you are such a love and such a light. And you're in New Zealand right now. How cool is that? How cold is that?
If I look like I'm dressed for winter, I am dressed for winter, all the way down to my UGG boots.
Wow. Yeah. And that's a recent move for you, which was very bold and courageous. And I miss you in California.
I know, I miss you too. Yeah, I don't know if it was bold and courageous or just in the moment. I was so panicked about COVID and being in Los Angeles with asthma that I was just like, my fiance and his family live here. So I just literally packed a bag, and within 24 hours of us deciding, I was on a plane here, not thinking that I was actually relocating to New Zealand, because one would bring very different things, ladies, if you knew you were going to be.
Oh my gosh. And that sounds like my story. Like I up and moved to Maine, basically because of COVID. My boyfriend was like, it's going to be a shit show here. Let's get the hell out, and
yeah, I remember.
And now it's like my part-time residence. So, God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, the universe kind of just sometimes picks us up and puts us over here if we're listening. For me, it's really a process of tuning in and listening. And I know that that's ultimately where you lead your people. from
Yeah.
like Moses, from the food, from the manna to, sanity and the place where you can listen when you get those messages.
Yes, and when we're overeating and we hate our bodies and we're, we have a, carb coma, sugar coma, it's so hard to hear those messages. So that is,
Impossible.
yes,
Impossible.
so true. And I know you've had your own struggles with food and weight as well.
Humongous. Yeah, I mean, honestly, just to give you in a nutshell, I know that people look at me and sometimes they think, oh, she has it all together. But actually, my eating disorder led me to be on a locked psychiatric ward, like Girl Interrupted, Winona Ryder,
Wow.
for 2 years.
No
Because that's
kidding.
back in the 80s, that's how they treated eating disorders. You were like thrown in with the people with schizophrenia and bipolar and whatnot because they didn't know how else to deal with us. So it was really about food restriction and calorie counting and behavior modification, all of which we know today doesn't work.
Yep.
But, it kept me alive and it kept me safe from myself in the midst of that raging eating disorder. So I'm grateful for it. But yeah, it took years, it took decades for me to have a healthy relationship with food in my body.
Yep. It's a journey for sure.
Yeah.
So, wow. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I really wanted you to be here because so many women do struggle with food and weight and body image. And, I hear it over and over when I have the privilege of talking to women on calls and, they just say, Tricia, I don't, I'm hiding out. I don't want my friends to see me. I don't want, when I go back to work, after COVID and they, how am I going to show up? They're going to look at me and say, oh my God, look what happened to her. Even the fact that it's summertime right now, women don't want to go out and be in their bathing suits. They don't want to be seen. They're wearing black yoga pants all summer long. So it's a real problem. And I know you know this from personal experience as well, but also from your photography work. So
Mm.
will you talk to me about sort of your work and how you help women overcome that?
That's a great question, how I help women overcome their body image issues with my work. Well, yeah, I've been a professional photographer for 35 years, since I was 5. And
Of course.
uh, and consistently, the one thing that I hear from women and not men when they step in front of the camera is, can you make me look thinner? Will you use Photoshop to make me look better? I hate having my picture taken and I don't look good in photos. And it was just so rampant and so discouraging for me because it didn't have anything to do with how good I thought they looked. It was like every single woman took herself out with this conversation of, I'm too fat. I don't like, my nose. I don't like this. I don't like my smile, my teeth. And the image dysmorphia that we have in our society is a whole nother conversation. But when you're looking at marketing yourself online or just being online like we are now, like because of COVID, we are all on this interactive forum, and it really brings up people's issues around self-image, body dysmorphia, self-consciousness, lack of confidence. And as a result, we're forced to be seen, but we're still hiding out. We're still wearing
Yes.
all black, or maybe we're putting our picture on Zoom instead of actually showing up live because we're embarrassed. And as Brene Brown says, we would have like a spiral of shame around our body image.
Yes, absolutely. And what is that? Like, I always notice that about hair. It really cracks me up how every single woman practically I've ever known wants somebody's hair other than her own. And it's like, it's just kind of a thing. Like everybody wants somebody else's hair and they're never quite happy with their own. And yet, we all have, so many of us have great hair. You have great hair. I've got great hair. As far as I'm concerned, I'm actually very happy with my hair, but I've certainly had that hair envy as well. And I know that's different from the body stuff, but it's just that general dissatisfaction with ourselves, thinking, the grass is greener somewhere else, and just envying what somebody else has, especially in this image realm.
Yeah, definitely.
What is that?
Well, that is a lifetime as Western women of being inundated with imagery that tells us how we should look to be acceptable, lovable, and valuable. And it is so ingrained in our consciousness and our subconscious that we don't even know that we're at the effect of it. And so no matter what your weight and no matter what your relationship with food, you'll always have in your mind the hundreds and thousands of images that you've seen on billboards, in magazines, on the media, on the internet of how you should look in order to be deemed acceptable and valuable as a woman in society. And it's like an epidemic. And it drives so much of the internal conversation that we have with that internal critic of, it's never good enough, I'm never good enough.
Yeah.
You know?
So everybody who's watching this live in the Secret Sauce group, please post a comment about what your thing is, like the thing you're most dissatisfied about. And this is a safe space, so you can say your boobs if you want to, or your butt if you want to. So what's the thing that that's your sore spot, the thing that you're just always wish were different or like somebody else, or some image that you see? Just go ahead and post that in the chat, just because we've all got something, so I'd say mine is, I'll go first. I'd say mine is my butt. Like that's the thing I feel, like I keep an eye on the most, and I'm not proud of the fact that I've gotten whiplash at times in my life from looking around at the mirror, at my butt. So, much better about it now, but yeah, that would be the thing that it used to be my stomach. Now it's my butt. I think since adolescence, it became my butt. So I've accepted my boobs many, many years ago. I've talked about those on my podcast before. So Siddiqi, what would you say yours is the thing that you've struggled with the most?
I think, I have to say one thing before I answer that, and that is that my dad is a plastic and reconstructive surgeon. So I grew up as a little girl looking at this whole table of slides of his surgeries, and like the before image and the after image of, here's this woman with small boobs and here's her with the augmented breasts. And all of the women in my family had plastic surgery. So it was like an augmented reality, and I didn't know where I fit in that and like what to do. But I also always hated my butt. It's like, start at the top and work your way down.
That's true.
There's always something to be dissatisfied with. And I like to say to myself, fat is not a feeling. The body becomes the fall guy. The body image becomes the thing we focus on when we're not addressing the deeper conversation.
It's like the scapegoat.
It's scapegoat. That was
Yep.
But, currently it's the back of my arms. I'm like, what the hell?
Sort of like, which decade are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly. It's like I've rotated through all of them. Victoria's Secret, their bombshell bra fixed the boob problem. Except for my fiance says, he's like, men have no hope. It's like all this false advertising with like, the tight Spanx and the bigger boobs. Like you strip down and it's like, what happened?
I know. And it's so crazy because I think, guys are so much more forgiving and loving about our bodies than
100%.
we are.
100%. I think it's actually excruciating for them to watch the contortions that we go through in relation to our body, because they're like, what are you talking about? You're beautiful. You're amazing. So clearly, coming back to the body dysmorphia, this is, we could put it on men, but actually having worked in advertising for so many years, I'll tell you, it's the women that are the ones that are perpetuating these standards. And if you look now, we went from like, Twiggy to Kardashians and fitness models. And so now either you're a Kardashian with like big boobs, teeny waist, big butt, or you're a fitness model and you're like straight down with 6-pack abs. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so confusing for young women. Like, where do you fall on that spectrum? And the reality is that most of us don't fall anywhere. If we have a healthy relationship with food and with our bodies, it's like,
Yep, it's so true. My boyfriend said to me recently, I didn't have any makeup on, and I like makeup. I enjoy putting it on, but at this particular day I didn't have it on, and he's like, oh, you look so great that way. I love the natural look. I'm like, oh, note to self. but I like the makeup because I think it makes me look better. So
Note to self, on date night, he'll get the raw, real version.
exactly. Okay, so let's talk about how to show up and just feel comfortable doing so.
Yeah. Well, how to show up and be comfortable doing so. If I had the magic pill for that, I would be a multimillionaire, because honest to God, that really is the core issue that so many women have. That's the barrier to their success is, I will work in all these other areas to develop my skill set and my knowledge and the tools that I use in my career, or if I'm self-employed, in my business. But when it comes to showing up and being okay representing myself, and if you're in business, representing yourself as your brand, that's where we all hit the brick wall at 100 miles an hour, because there is no easy solution to showing up and getting that confidence. It's not like it doesn't happen like this. Like, the food addiction and healing the hunger doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey. It's not a destination. And it's like some days I'm totally at peace with my body, and then some days I'm like, it's a roller coaster ride. And it's definitely not a point that you hit of having confidence and just staying there. It's not possible to just stay there. It's a in and out based on a lot of different factors.
Yeah. And I will say, if, for anybody who's, in that binge mode or that overeating mode and gaining weight mode, I get it. And there's no question that overcoming emotional eating, addressing your food issue, is going to help you feel more confident. Like, even if you didn't lose any weight, just the fact that you're not living this double life where you're binging at night and showing up and acting like you're doing fine, that double life of the emotional eater is a very painful one. So if you've got that pain, if you're living with that shame of what you do behind closed doors with food, either eating it or trying to get rid of it, that has to be addressed. Like, you're not going to be your most confident, beautiful you when you're hiding this deep, dark secret. So definitely that's, the better we care for ourselves, regardless of our weight, the more self-care and the more self-love, obviously. And I know, Siddiqi, you can weigh in on this, but obviously the more self-care and the more self-love, the brighter, you're feeling about, the better you're going to feel about showing up, and the brighter your light is going to shine.
Yeah. You said the word shame in there, and shame is hard to contain. It's like mercury when the thermometer, I know you and I are the same age so you remember like a mercury thermometer breaking, and how the mercury just goes everywhere. And that's the way shame is. Shame is uncontainable. And so if you have it in one area of your life over food or with your body, then it's going to be almost impossible to contain it and then show up here confident, like show up at your work confident, or feeling sexy in your relationship, or, in all those areas that you want to have confidence. It's going to be harder if over here you have this secret relationship. And one of the things that I really work on with women is their inner critic, like the voice of the inner critic. That's always the shadow side of our psyche, that's always editorializing thing, and just ingraining that shame even deeper, so that it's so pervasive we don't even know that we're under this fog of shame. It's like your sugar. I know you just did a sugar challenge recently, right?
Yeah.
And it's not until you let go of the sugar. I let go of the sugar 31 years ago. And every once in a while it's in Chinese food or it's somewhere, and I feel hungover. I feel drunk, and you don't know that you're in the shame. You don't know that you're in the sugar fog or the gluten fog until you come out of it, and you're like, my God, where have I been?
So
like
true.
David Burns from the Talking Heads. My God.
Okay, so great. I love that you just mentioned the shadow self. So you have these archetypes, and I really want to cover those here because I think that's really gonna, people are gonna relate to this. So can you talk about the archetypes of visibility or lack thereof?
Yeah, the archetypes of invisibility, as it
Yes.
were. Yeah, in my archetype quiz, and you helped me do the archetype quiz, we really looked at what are all the things, the barriers that women have to showing up and being visible, meaning speaking on stages, speaking on podcasts, getting on Facebook Lives, going in front of a board of directors or whatever, any place where you need to show up and speak up and be seen and be felt to get a message across. That's what I'm calling visibility. Archetypes are based on Carl Jung and the dark shadow side of our psyche. And so what I've done is categorized 4 different archetypes of kind of like our superpowers, and when we're in our visibility greatness, and then when we're totally collapsed and invisible. And the main things that keep women invisible, and I know most of the women I work with check this box, is perfectionism. I'm not going to show up and get my photos taken until I lose that 10, 15, 20 pounds. I'm not going to show up and do a Facebook Live until I totally understand what I'm going to say. So that perfectionism keeps us from being in our magic, our secret sauce, as you would say. So that would be the alchemist, and the shadow side is the perfectionist. The alchemist is bringing your unique magic and your unique gift to the world. So that's just one of them. I don't know if you want to hear about all of them.
Of course I do. I will say it's so funny about perfectionism. I think me and Oprah, I heard Oprah say this once about perfection. She's like, no, I hire perfectionists because I'm not a perfectionist myself. And that actually is me. Like, I'm always like, whatever, which is why, whatever. So many things that I do are just kind of whatever, as people know. I'm not very polished, but I actually don't feel like I feel like I could use a little bit more of that sometimes. But all joking aside, I know that's a big, for my clients, a big one. So much of the time they're just, and it's paralyzing that that need to be perfect. It keeps them procrastinating. It keeps them from stepping out, like you said. It keeps them from joy.
Yeah, from joy and from freedom, freedom from that obsession.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, let's go through all of them.
Yeah, let's go through all of them. So the other one, I'll go through the 2 most popular ones first.
Okay.
The most popular one on the quiz, and hundreds of women have taken it, 40% of the people end up being a queen. And a queen in your greatness, you have a realm, whether it's your family or at work or in your business, and you are here to impart a message on the realm that helps to lead people more efficiently, more effectively, with more love, So in the queendom, you are someone that can show up and has incredible influence. Think about influencers. Like they own a realm of people that follow them loyally. And so that's the great side of the queen's visibility. But the shadow side is that she's always afraid of being found out as a fraud. Some people call it imposter syndrome. And so what that does is, no matter how visible the queen is, in the back of her head, she's like, God, someone's going to find out that I'm not really all that. And then I'm going to, in this cancel culture, I'm going to be canceled. Everybody's going to leave. They're going to abandon me. And so the queen's deepest fear is of being left and being abandoned. So being found out as a fraud. The next most popular 35% of people is the lover. The leaders, the female leaders that lead with their heart. They have passion, they're vulnerable, they're visible, but in the background, they're always a chameleon. And the chameleon shadow side is the people pleaser. Like, what do I have to say?
Oh, we got a lot of those.
What do I have to do to get you to like me? Oh my God, I made a mistake. You're not going to like me. That always shape shifting of like, who do I need to be for you to see me as fill in the blank, as competent, as, valuable, as worthy of you hiring me. And that chameleon thing really means that the lover loses her heart. She loses her heart and soul in that internal conversation with, I'm not good enough. And so I have to be someone else for you.
That was my life story. Who I am couldn't possibly pass muster. Like, I couldn't possibly be okay just being me. It's so subpar that I have got to contort myself and be who everybody else wants me to be. And I know that's the emotional eater way. So if you're watching this, definitely, when we hit a little ding, ding, ding on one of these, and it could be more than one, I'm sure, go ahead and post your comment. So
yeah, that's the reality, is that when people take this archetype quiz, they go back and they take it again because they're like, well, what if I'm something else too? And when in my class, Visibility Foundations, we go over all the archetypes, and people find, the crossover between the perfectionist and the chameleon, and how,
yeah.
you really get tangled up in yourself. So the next one is the Alchemist, and the Alchemist is only 15% of the population of the
Okay.
women that have taken the test. And the Alchemist is really that magical person. We all have that person that just kind of creates something from nothing. And they have, maybe they're psychics, maybe they're astrologers, maybe they're numerologists. They're people that are like more woo, and they don't want to share their woo with the world. And so they're constantly trying to rein it in with perfectionism. And so if I can just make my magic perfect enough, then it won't get out of control. It won't be overwhelming to people, and they will accept me, and I will fit in, and they will accept my secret sauce, my gift. And the alchemists, in their perfectionism, they squeeze off the very juice that is their magic.
Yeah,
So,
that's such a
yeah,
sad thing. They're
it
hiding their
is.
light
It
under a
is.
bushel.
But how many gifted psychics, gifted astrologists, gifted numerologists, people that are really woo spiritual leaders, how many of them do you know that are not getting on Facebook Lives these days and saying, hey, I have these insights to share with
Yeah.
you that would transform everything? And that's like one of the biggest visibility wound of, and I call it a wound because it goes way back, and that's another conversation. That original wound we have around I'm not okay, I'm not enough, usually is in one aspect of how we are expressing ourselves. So the alchemist, it's like this magical little kid that got shut down, that then turned to food to suppress the feelings of disappointment, hurt, anxiety. I'm not enough, I'm not okay. I've got to, shut the voices up. I've got to shut the magic
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. And it's
Tragic.
so sad, because God made us with this beautiful gift. Whatever our gift is, we all have a gift, and we all have a light to shine. And when we just don't feel like it's right or good enough or going to be accepted, we dim our light, and that's just not what we're here to do. And we have to break out of that. So,
Yeah. The world needs us to break out of it. And then
amen.
the last one, the smallest percentage, is the sage. And the sage it's like Yoda. The sage actually doesn't need a lot of visibility, because people are meant to go and find the sage, but they need just enough visibility that we know who Yoda is from Star Wars. Like, he had such a pivotal role as this sage that held the wisdom of the magic and the totality of everything. But there were only a few, like the Jedis were meant to go work with the sage. So the sage has this internal judge that's always judging itself, and it's always judging its wisdom and being like, nah, people don't really want to hear that. Nah, people don't really want me to be that. No, I'm going to be something else, rather than this very profound person that can really help us see everything from a different perspective. And so the judge also judges everybody else, takes that wisdom, and instead of letting it ruminate and shift things, sees everybody else and is like, well, that person's not that, and that person's not that, rather than having the wisdom of, the deeper love.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so people, we're going to put this link to the quiz, by the way, so you can take the Archetype Quiz, and you'll find out which you predominantly are, right? And then what else happens after that?
Well, some women that take the quiz are like, wow, I know that I've been dealing with this or not dealing with this, and that this is the thing that's holding me back from sharing my light and my brilliance with the world, and I really need some more support around this. In which case, I'd encourage them to have a call with me, and we'll see if it's a fit for you to be in the September class of the Visibility Foundations, because that's really where you get the group support, and you actually practice doing things like videos that you post in a safe group where people comment, and you get to flush out those voices of like, I'm a fraud. No, it's not perfect enough. No, I need to be someone else. No, I don't even want to be on there at all. You get the encouragement to look at the deeper issues and realize that whatever it was that wounded you initially, it's now your gift to share with the world.
I love that. Well, you do such amazing work, Siddiqi, and you help so many women just shine their light and really express their essence. So thank you so much for sharing all that here. And again, if you're watching this in the Secret Sauce group, comment, let us know which of the archetypes. Will you just say them again?
Sure. It's the Queen. Her shadow side is the Fraud. It's the Lover, and her shadow side is the Chameleon. It's the Alchemist, and her shadow side is the Perfectionist. And it's the Sage, and her shadow side is the Judge.
Okay, so whichever one you think you are, please be sure to share that in the comment section. So, and I will, in the Secret Sauce group, I will also share that link so they can take that right away. So
yeah, and you can take it. Share which one you are.
I think, well, yeah, I'm not the people pleaser that I used to be, thank God. So yeah, I will take it and see which one is now me. So yeah, I'm ever evolving. So thank you so much, Siddiqi, for sharing your beautiful wisdom and love and beauty here. So thanks everybody. Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. And Siddiqi, I ask all my beautiful, wonderful guests of the Heal Your Hunger show to share one last thing with us, and that is, what is your deepest hunger?
Yeah, my deepest hunger is to know that I am here to make an impact, and that all of the tragedies that I've had and the triumphs that I've had are meant to be shared with other people. So my deepest hunger is to continually share the wisdom, because I'm the sage, that I've gained from all these experiences in my life.
So beautiful. And you, gosh darn it, you've had a lot of experiences. I know about you and your experiences. And you also really are the sage. You have amazing psychic abilities and insights. And I've just always loved that about you and benefited from knowing you and the different circles we've been in together. Yeah. So thank you for being here. You are such a light and a blessing. And thank you everybody for tuning in. And please be sure to join us in the Secret Sauce group, and we will see you on the next show. Take care.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.